So we have a great group of panelists. I'm going to introduce them now, and then we'll have Allison from the EPA who will kick it off and kind of level set everything for us. There's a lot of great funding opportunities, a lot of great benefits for electric school buses. I see some of our elected officials. One of our council members elect, I did see her on, Lisa Gore, recently won the Democratic primary for council member at large for Washington, D.C., and is also on the Neighborhood Advisory Council. Lisa, welcome. You want to say a quick word, Lisa?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Antoine, for hosting this, and I'm just grateful to be here. I'm definitely following along and looking forward to the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we have such big hopes for Lisa. She's a very talented individual and really into a lot of the great work that we're doing. And DC has a lot of great plans, and plans are only good as implementation. So
that's right.
I know with her and Mr. Pacello and others that will accelerate those efforts to make this region the flagship. Everything can't be in California, right? So we got to start making sure that we're leading the country as well. We're the capital and we got to be at the top. So we want to do that. So let me, Mitch, introduce a couple of folks really quick. Barry serves as the Vincent as the school bus account representative for K-Nail Truck and Bus Center. K-Nail is a full service commercial truck and bus dealership representing IC Bus, Collins, Diamond Bus, and Cummins. The dealership operates from 4 locations in the DC metropolitan area. K-Nail is the largest school bus dealer in the state of Maryland. Barry heads up K-Nail's EV vehicle sales to help customers with EV purchases from inception to completion, and Barry has been in the school bus and truck business for 29 years. He is largely responsible for municipal sales for the state of Maryland. And from these responsibilities, Barry also serves on the board of directors for the Maryland State Child Care Association. Awesome. He has a passion for bus safety and is well known around the state. He's a lifelong resident of DC, Maryland, Virginia, and attended schools at Catonville Community College, as well as University of Maryland, Baltimore. Michael Perez manages Green Power's contracts and programs and grant applications. He comes to Green Power with over 7 years of experience in contract management, with 4 years being in the transportation industry. Michael holds a degree in political science from the University of California in San Diego, beautiful place. He has previously served in the U.S. Air Force for reserves for 6 years as a logistics planner. Michael Porcello serves as the committee director for the Committee on Transportation and the Environment with his Council of the District of Columbia. The committee includes vehicle and fleet electrification policy, as well as energy efficiency and sustainability, waste management, diversion, traffic safety, and public transportation infrastructure. Prior to joining the council, Michael provided plaintiff side legal representation to clients on the Title VII and Title IX discrimination claims, and served as legal counsel for 2 nonprofits on LGBTQ rights. All right, Michael. Allison Riley is currently serving as the Climate and Environmental Justice Engagement Coordinator for EPA Region 3's Air and Radiation Division. Prior to this, she served 6 years as diesel program manager for the region, specializing in DARE grants management and partnerships. She was also recently named to represent ARD on the region's work group on climate adaptation. She joined the agency in 2015 after serving for 10 years as volunteer programs coordinator for the city of Philadelphia. She has a bachelor's degree from the University of California, Los Angeles, and a Master of Public Policy from George Washington University. All right, that is it. And our other speaker cannot make it. Thank you for that. I want to just see that Mr. Wright join us. He has not. Okay, so what we're going to do is I want to give Allison Riley from the EPA an opportunity to give us some remarks. Allison, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Is my presentation ready to go? All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name's Allison Riley. I'm with EPA Region 3, and I'm here today to talk about the Clean School Bus Rebate Program. So this presentation is normally about 15-20 minutes. I've had to trim it back to fit into the 5 to 7 minute time frame. It's still a lot of slides. So I'm in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of breeze through them pretty quickly, but we'll have this time for discussion if anyone has questions. The program guide is available to.
She froze up. She's going to have.
Oh, okay.
She's going to have to log in. Why don't we go to Melinda and then we can come back to her.
Okay.
Melinda, you want to kick us off while she's relogging in and she can come in?
Give me a moment, Melinda.
Sure, no problem. And I realize I didn't send in a bio, so I apologize for that. But I will say, my name is Melinda Sandu. I'm the Director of Business Development with Lion Electric. I've been with them since 2018, but I've been in the school bus industry since for about almost 17 years. And I've always been involved with some sort of technology or innovation to improve safety on school buses.
Can everyone mute that's not speaking, please? That way we don't have to automatically mute you.
So I will stick within my 5 minutes. We'll move pretty quickly here. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on when I started with Lion in 2018. Some of the main things we were doing to educate school districts.
Oh, yeah. Lieutenant Lahira, something?
One moment. One moment.
No problem.
That adds money back to my social security check every month.
It might be a transportation director with the drivers coming in, because they do that. They just start speaking right away.
1 second.
No problem. So what I was going to touch on is
It's always smart to find out
when I
what's
started
available.
with electric school
You're not
buses.
just your eligibility.
I mean, you kind of need to mute everybody, otherwise.
have.
We're gonna-
Call the number about it.
I did. They're unmuting. Everybody's muted. They're unmuting themselves. Okay. 1 second.
I will continue. So I was, as I was stating, when I had started with Lion 4 years ago,
Sound like
The benefit to add
Could-
money.
a meeting.
Could
but I have
everybody
to-
mute
I'm on mute
themselves?
somehow.
oh, there we go.
Where is that?
I called to check my tip code. They helped you so much.
Okay,
Can you make me a co-host, please?
Sure.
I did try to go through and mute people too, and I couldn't. So when I had started at Lion 4 years ago, the main things we were educating people on is that adopting electric school buses reduce greenhouse gases. That was the obvious. I'm sure everybody in the school bus industry, and now everybody knows that the harmful effects of diesel, the carcinogens in diesels and fossil fuels. And the secondary thing we were talking about is the reduced costs and maintenance and fuel by using an electric school bus. At that time, 4, 5, 6 years ago, diesel costs were going up, and we wanted to help address some of those issues. You can go ahead to the next slide, Catherine.
Closed captioning brought to you by.
Excellent. So this data is readily available, but what I really wanted to get to is where we're at now, and I know Antoine spoke about it. Go ahead, Catherine, you could go to the next slide. I know you're trying to do multiple things at once, mute people and advance my slides. Thank you.
Okay. There we go.
So here's where we are today. Antoine spoke about this at the very beginning in the introduction. The electric school bus is being talked about in the U.S. from with everybody from the President of the United States to the top left. You see the Vice President there with our Chief Commercial Officer using a school bus, as a backdrop. This was a very simple industry when I started and when multiple people on this panel started. And now we have everybody from the Secretary of Energy, Transportation, that's EPA region 5 director in the bottom left at our factory site. So now the electric school bus, or the school bus, is not just being talked about for transporting students, but as an energy source for workforce for development, for educating students. Everybody is talking about this technology, and it's great to see because it's more than improving air quality. It is educating students, bringing this technology to disadvantaged communities, showing communities that this is their future. This could be their future green jobs. And we can change communities for generations by reducing greenhouse gases and bringing a clean technology. What you see in the bottom left is that's actually our future Lions factory site in Joliet, Illinois. Go ahead, Catherine, you can move to the next slide. Lion is opening the largest factory dedicated to medium and heavy duty vehicles in North America. It's almost close to 1 million square feet. It'll be in Joliet. And so just to tell you, that's where the last 4 years has, and actually we delivered our first bus in 2016. That's where we are at today, but where Lion is today is we're a manufacturer of electric school buses. They are purpose-built to be electric. We have over 600 vehicles on the road today. Many may think this is a new technology, but I think 33 states now have electric school buses. Lion has a factory right now that's capable of producing 2,500 vehicles, and at full capacity, our factory in Joliet will be capable of producing 20,000 vehicles annually. We are also opening our battery manufacturing facility in Maribel in Quebec. And today we have close to 10 million miles on those 600 vehicles throughout North America. Go ahead, you can move to the next slide. So Lion offers 3 vehicles right now. The 600 I told you about is the vehicle on the right. It's a Type C conventional. We have 3 electric school bus in addition to the truck lineup that we have. These vehicles can run up to 155 miles per charge. And just to give some, I know there was going to be some advocates in attendance and people that want to see their children being transported in electric school buses. Just to give you some perspective, the average route in North America is around 70 miles per day. So right now the range, it might not work for your field trips or sports or, going to the next state for a baseball tournament. But for most routes, electric school buses do the job. And when I started in the industry, these were only going 65 miles on a charge. So just a little bit of education for everybody. The next slide. So today, with the current open EPA grant, Lion does offer grant support, but what we're realizing is right now in many states, school is starting, and transportation directors, a lot of them are driving right now too. So you need support when it comes to talking to your utility, finding out what type of service you need in your yard for charging infrastructure, what charging infrastructure you need, and for just applying for these grants. And we offer that full scale approach to support directors. The EPA grant right now is something that, people should not feel like they can't apply or they're in a shortage of time. Reach out to your vendors and they can support you with filling out that application. Most of us do have support available for you. And the last slide. And I wanted to just quickly touch on, Antoine had mentioned this during the introduction also, but the social, the environmental justice impact of bringing electric school buses to communities. The EPA right now has prioritized tribal schools, communities that have been disadvantaged and have been in areas where they're close to highways, they have poor air quality. There is a number of reasons for social and environmental justice that we really do need to look at bringing electric school buses to these communities. And I think that's how Antoine and I connected when we met at the ACT conference. We had walked the show and talked about these issues, and they're important and near and dear to our heart. So if anybody has questions on these, please feel free to reach out and we can supply some of these articles and this data for you. And just in closing, you can go ahead, Catherine, to the last slide. If anybody wants data from any transportation directors that have been using school buses for a number of years, there's some myths out there that these aren't working in cold states or they don't operate or charge in cold states. There's been buses running in Illinois, New York, Quebec, Ontario, places that are cold for long periods of time for a number of years. So, and this data is available on some of these school district sites too. So reach out to us, let us know who you want to speak to. And if your board members or superintendents need to speak to transportation directors, we can make that connection. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that great, great information. Awesome, awesome information. Next, I want to go to Allison, come back on.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened there. My connection just went loop. The
No.
worst time.
No worries, Allison. We're going to go to Allison Riley from the EPA.
Thank
Floor
you.
is yours.
I'm going to stay off camera just in case this is a bandwidth problem. I'm not really sure what happened there.
Let me just go one thing. We're going to have some
You want me to do it?
questions.
Okay.
We'll have questions. We'll hold the questions to the end. Okay, everyone? Allison, you go.
All right, well, okay. All right, so is my presentation back? Well, anyway, you know, this, I don't know how much of you guys heard. It was I was in the middle of saying that it's about a 15-minute presentation that I've had to sort of condense into 5 minutes. So the slides there's a lot of slides. I'm going to be breezing through a lot of them just in interest of time. I'm available for questions afterwards and, you know, during the discussion as well. So feel free to reach out to me. Slide 2, please. All right, so you may be aware that the bipartisan infrastructure law or bill set aside $5 billion to fund clean school buses. This is a very large amount of money for us. It's a lot more money than we're used to handling through our DERA program or any of our other diesel programs. So there's a lot of opportunity to take advantage of this funding over the next 5 years. Next slide. So half the funding goes to $500 million a year is directed at zero emissions buses, meaning electric, and the other half can go to either electric or other types of alternative fuel buses, which we define as follows. Zero emission necessarily means electric, since that's the only type of tailpipe emissions. Alternative covers the other fuels, but principally we're talking about CNG or propane buses. Clean is sort of an umbrella term that we use to describe both. Next slide. So there's some limitations on the funding. No state can exceed 10% of the available funds in a given year. School district can only submit one application at a time for up to 25 buses. However, if you're a contractor, an eligible contractor, you can submit multiple applications as long as there's only one school listed on each of the applications and only up to 25 buses. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm not going to go into detail on the timeline here. Just the most important thing to understand is that this is closing very soon on August 19th. So hopefully if anyone's interested, they've already been working on their application. If not, you know, it's not a lot of time left. You're going to have to scramble a little bit. You know, and it sounds like there's some other resources from some of the other speakers that maybe can help you with this. You know, the other thing to note is that this is a 2-year program that we've allocated for now. Normally the Clean School Bus Rebate Program is about a year. But because of the, you know, extensions with the, you know, the market changes and supply chain issues, we've let it be a 2-year program this round. Next slide, please. So eligible applicants, as I alluded to earlier, that includes public schools, so not private schools, just public. Nonprofit school transportation organizations, tribal organizations and schools, and eligible school transportation contractors. Next slide. So be advised, you know, although these selections will be done by lottery, that we have a prioritization list. So certain schools will be prioritized in terms of the amount of funding they get and in their status in the selection process. Next slide, please. So specifically, you know, we're talking about schools that are, you know, high need and low income areas with student populations over 20% living in poverty. There's also rural school districts that are on the list, as well as tribal school districts. Next slide. Generally speaking, we're looking for buses that are 2010 or older to be eligible for the program. However, there's some workarounds for that. We know not every school, like for example, Maryland, you know, there's a rule or statute of some kind that requires all school buses to be less than 12 years old to be serviced. So, you know, if you're in a situation where you don't have any eligible 2010 or older vehicles, you can still participate in the program. You can either scrap a 2010 or older non-diesel internal combustion engine, so for example, gasoline, or you can scrap, sell, or donate a 2011 or newer internal combustion engine. That could be diesel or gasoline, any kind of internal combustion. Next slide. There's also some other requirements for the eligible vehicles, such as the size. So they have to have a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,001 pounds or more, and this is true of the replacement buses as well. They have to be comparable in size. They have to be owned by the fleet replacing the bus. So, you know, no lease or lease to purchase. And they have to provide service, or have to have been providing service to the school district for at least 3 days a week on average for 21 and 22 school year. Next slide. So I'm not going to go into detail on the different reimbursement rates because it's just too much. But, you know, just be aware that the amount of funding you can receive depends on the vehicle replacement type, the replacement vehicle type, as well as whether the school is on the prioritization list. So priority schools can receive more funding than those that are not on the list. And so schools replacing with electric can receive more than those replacing with CNG or propane. Next slide, please. Similarly, you know, for the infrastructure, the prioritization status affects the amount of money that you can receive. $20,000 a bus for schools on the priority list and $13,000 a bus for schools not on the priority list. And I urge you to talk to your utility right away if you're interested and you don't know whether you need upgrades to your related infrastructure. We won't fund, you know, in excess of the actual cost, however. So, you know, you can't, if it's $19,000, you can't get 20. Next slide, please. There's also limitations on what the infrastructure funding will cover. So we'll cover the electric panel, the charging unit, the pedestal, as well as the connections between those units and the bus. We will not cover, you know, other, you know, related infrastructure like transformers and metering. So make sure that you talk to your utility if you need to, or, you know, get some help if you need to determine whether you need other upgrades to your system. Next slide, please. Okay, so to sum up, there's a lot of funding available. We encourage every eligible entity to apply, whether or not you're on the prioritization list. You know, this is going to be, you know, this is the first year of the program. We don't know what the landscape's going to be like. We don't know who's going to be applying. So we encourage everyone, if you have an interest, to please, you know, consider applying. If you don't have a sam.gov registration, it's gonna be a little tough to get one now. Hopefully everybody that's interested and wants to apply already has that. Yeah, that's something that it is required to be able to apply for the program. So, you know, if you don't have one, hopefully maybe you can scramble, but I'm not sure about that. You'll have to talk to Sam. The program guide is online, and I have a link in my next slide for additional guidance. You should initiate discussions with your utility now if you want to apply for ZEVs. And again, the application deadline is the 19th. So, you know, best of luck. This is just the links that we have available to the resources, including our program guide, the application user guide, and the larger program. And there's the email there is for, you know, helpline and, you know, questions. And that's all I have. Thanks for letting me be here today. And I'm sorry about the technical difficulties.
Can you put that email in the chat too?
I can try to do that right now. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Allison. We'll come back. I want you to, we come back to questions to kind of talk a little more about those health benefits as well of clean school buses. All right, we're gonna move along. I want to go to Barry. Barry, the floor is yours. You gotta unmute
Do I
yourself.
mute?
Let me do that. Thank you, everybody. Want to welcome everybody who's in attendance and listening to this. If you'd like to put my slides up. There we go. I'm an IC bus dealer. We represent 3 or 4 different manufacturers. These slides are going to be from Next, which is the e-mobility portion of IC bus. The general information is applicable to all electric vehicles. I didn't want to have, you know, 7 different manufacturers up here, so I just chose our flagship. So you want the next slide, please? This is something Antoine referred to earlier. Everything starts in California. The clean airs. Thank you, Mike, for being in California and putting this out here for all of us. California has a clean air law out there, and you can see by the chart that progressively through the next several years, certain portions of class vehicles will have to be zero emissions, so to speak. Maryland, DC, Virginia, the area we're all in right now, the metropolitan area, has chosen to follow the CARB emissions. So that's why we are where we are today. Next slide, please. School buses fall into that class 3 and class 7 category, by the way. A little bit about Next. Next is the IC mobility wing of the company, the manufacturer in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the buses, which is what we're talking about. The trucks are up there if you wanted to see those. Next slide, please. The Rochester Hills facility is where the brains of the IC, of the e-mobility come together. They have a facility out there where for visiting, you can get training, we'll do walk-arounds on vehicles, grants, things like that is all comes out of there. The training, this is an old slide, but all these things are now in place for that. So basically what I'm telling you is that your local dealership can provide for you all the needs, from the bus to the charging, to the grant research, to the infrastructure, to the driver training, to anything relating to the electric bus. Next slide, please. This is just an overall picture. I don't know how many of you are familiar with what a school bus used to look like, but this is certainly not your daddy's school bus anymore. Those battery packs in the center there, those orange battery packs in the center, are where all the individual batteries combine together, which power the vehicle. Next slide, please. Battery capacity options. It was said earlier, the average route in the United States is 70 miles a day. You can see that these batteries can go up to 135 miles between charges. The 3-pack battery system can go up to 200 miles between charges. Next slide, please. These are just some of the things that come with the IC bus, as well as some of the other buses. Wi-Fi is a key to this. These buses, you'll see in another slide, these buses constantly communicate with the manufacturer, so we can track how things are going. Have chargings is going to drop down to a critical level, so we can notify the terminal where the bus is located that bus needs to come back for a charge. I'm going to admit it, these things aren't perfect yet, but they're getting there. They're very close to being perfect. And that's why the Wi-Fi is so important. So there's communication between the bus itself, the manufacturer, the dealership, and the terminal where the bus is kept. Next slide, please. This gives you some ideas of the charging times, anywhere from 87 minutes between charges to with a DC fast charger, you can get something done in about an hour or less. Next slide, please. This is a standard slide here. It just shows you the warranties, the maintenance schedules on an electric bus. Maintenance on these buses are a lot less. There's no oil changes. There's no tune-ups. There's no emissions things you have to deal with. It's a very clean, long-lasting alternative to the current vehicles. Next slide, please. Dealerships need to do training on these vehicles. Our dealership provides training to the drivers, to the terminals. We have first responder training. We teach the technicians high voltage training, vehicle powertrain and vehicle diagnostics to keep the buses running. Next slide, please. I made a comment earlier, this is not your daddy's bus anymore. It used to be, been in this business 30 years, when a contractor wanted a bus, it would simply send them a quote and then he'd say, just let me know when it's done. Nowadays, quoting the bus is the last thing we do. Number one thing to do is determine if the EV vehicle is right for you. The topic of this panel is the benefits of an electric school bus. One of the things that are a benefit is the route simulations. You need to make sure that the bus can handle the route. If the routes aren't suitable for electric buses, there's no need to go to the next steps. The next step will, the next slide, please. The dealership that you're dealing with should have a consulting wing that will consult you through all these 5 steps. The biggest one is finding the funding to pay for that. Like Allison said, there is the EPA rebate is out there. It's not actually a grant until I think in 2 years, I'll call it a grant. Right now, it's just a rebate. Next slide, please. This is just part of the consulting process here. TCO Calculator is a total cost of ownership. We can actually figure in what you're currently using as opposed to what you want to replace it with and see if it actually makes sense to replace with an electric vehicle. Route analysis is, like I said earlier, we need to make sure that the vehicle will handle the route, and the consultation is a mass group getting together to make sure everything will work for you. Next slide, please. Charging infrastructure is the second most important thing. There's nothing going to be more embarrassing than delivering 10, 12, 25 electric vehicles, and then your charging infrastructure is not in place. Next slide, please. This is just a slide to tell you what goes through with the infrastructure, what needs to take place. Next slide, please. This is just a survey we provide to you, a survey we ask you to take to make sure we can provide the right infrastructure recommendations for you. Next slide, please. I'm kind of going through this fast because we're limited in time. Charging fundamentals, basically, currently right now with a diesel vehicle, you have a fuel tank on your lot and that's it. Now you have the AC level 2 charger, which is considered a slow charger, and the DC fast charger. So most fleets are going to have a minimum, depending upon how many buses, of one of each of those chargers, overnight chargers and the fast charge to take care of vehicles in between routes. Next slide, please. The construction is the third of the 5 C's. Will help you through the construction of the vehicles, the infrastructure at your facility, and any other changes that may have to happen in your shop. Next slide, please. The connection, this is what I referred to earlier with the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is important. It constantly will monitor the vehicle, sending information back to the dealership, the service department, that dealership, the manufacturer itself, and to the end user. And all that is going to increase the uptime, keeping the bus on the road, reduce the overall cost of service, because we can head off any issues that may be happening and keep you from having any downtime. Next slide, please. Conservation, one of the big questions that always come up, okay, I'm going to have these huge battery packs that weigh a couple thousand pounds. What happens when the batteries are no longer any good? They won't hold the charge anymore. The answer to that with the IC bus, I can't speak for my competitors on this. Our batteries are completely recyclable or reusable or repurposed. There's talks of we can take the battery packs out of the bus, set them in a field, charge them up, and they can be used by the power companies to eliminate some of the load on the power grids during peak times. Next slide. This is the inside of a training trailer that we have. This is owned by Next. It's a 50-foot long trailer that has training in it for technicians, information slides or touch screens for the general population to come in and learn about the electric vehicles. Next slide, please. Basically, and this is all in summary. I'll leave it up there for a second or two so you can take a look at it. Okay, next slide. I think that is the end of the slide. So the benefits of the electric school buses: cleaner air, which everybody would certainly like to have. The buses are extremely quiet. So the hope for that is that there'll be better behavior on the buses. I'm not sure how many people are keeping tabs of the current driver situation. Drivers are leaving the bus industry left and right because of mostly disciplinary problems on the bus. So the quieter the bus, they're hoping the quieter the kids will be, the better off they'll behave. The additional benefits are lower maintenance costs. And one of the big benefits is right now, if the grant money and the rebate money's out there, you can get the buses pretty inexpensively, and there's lots of help out there to help you get those buses. I'll put my contact information in the chat in case anybody wants to reach out to me for any additional questions.
Thank you
for your time.
Thank you. We got a few questions. But I want to go to Rashim Wright really quick for an announcement. He is involved with a school, a tour that's going to a number of historically Black colleges this fall. I know he was having some challenges getting in on the earlier part of the program, but before I go to our last two school bus folks, I wanted to give Mr. Wright an opportunity to talk about the Clean Culture initiative. That's really quick for about a quick minute. Rashim?
Yes, thanks, Anton. How's everyone doing? My name is Rashim Wright. I'm with Clean Energy Culture. We're a nonprofit organization. And basically what we know is that Black communities have been in the forefront and at the center of this climate movement. And we also know that there is a whole new clean energy economy coming across the country. And so what we are doing with Clean Energy Culture is basically connecting the culture, which is, slang for a segment of young African Americans, the hip hop culture, to the clean energy movement. We know it's very important, and throughout, often when there's an economic boom, communities of color are often left out. And so what we're doing with Clean Energy Culture is doing a marketing campaign, talking to historically Black colleges, talk to youth, students, and building a pipeline of new thinkers, new folks who are interested in the career, as well as folks who are taking advantage of the economy, not just careers, but also making it a way of life. And so I'll drop my email in the chat. Would love to chat with many of you about our programs that we have coming up and about how we can connect the clean energy economy to the clean energy culture. Thanks, Anton.
Antoine, thank you. Thanks for being on. I want to go next to our Michael Perez. Michael, the floor is yours. And then we'll be followed by Michael Porcello.
Okay, good morning. Can everybody hear me? Just want to make sure.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So my bio that was originally stated was a little older. I am Green Power's vice president of its school bus program. I also manage the contracts and grants efforts. I've been with Green Power since 2018, but I've worked in the bus industry for about 10 years. Before overseeing Green Power's school bus program, I specifically managed our sales teams and our grants teams covering all of Green Power's electric vehicle platforms that I'll touch on a little bit. I know time's a little short here, so I'm just going to give a quick overview of Green Power and some of our school buses. So Green Power Motor Company began in 2010 with the vision to advance the adoption of EVs by making battery electric buses and trucks affordable, durable, and easy to deploy. We offer commercial vehicles for delivery, public transit, schools, van pooling, micro transit shuttles, and then cargo commercial delivery. The big point of Green Power, of what differentiates us from a lot of the market, is that our vehicles are built from the ground up to be electric. They're never converted. We're not taking anyone else's chassis and gutting it of its diesel and gas or ICE components. We've built and designed everything from the ground up to be electric, meaning we could really use the efficiencies and of the vehicle because it's designed around the electric drive motor and it's designed around the battery systems. I am located at our sales and admin office in Rancho Cucamonga in beautiful Southern California. We keep knocking on in this throughout this call. Our main manufacturing facility right now is in Porterville, California, but we are opening up a second manufacturing facility in South Charleston, West Virginia. That's coming on later this year, and that's going to be producing our Type A and Type D school buses. I'm going to give a brief overview of why Green Power makes electric school buses. Melinda from Lion Electric kind of hit the nail on the head here earlier. School buses were not getting the focus in electrification efforts early on, even though it was arguably the most important application. Helping kids breathe fresh air in the safest mode of transportation. Many school buses on the road, still to this day, especially here in California, are some of the oldest, dirtiest types of vehicles that are still legally driven every day. So the need was great, and Green Power saw that there was a vast improvement that could be happening on the electrification efforts with schools. Plus, as she stated earlier, school buses average just under 75 miles per day. It's the perfect application for electric school bus technology right now, which is also why you see such a big commitment that's happening at the federal level now and many state levels across the United States. Barry also touched on this next point. Electric school buses help reduce fatigue that can be associated with riding in a heavy-duty ICE vehicle. We gave a presentation at STN just 2 weeks ago, and that presentation centered around driver retention, technician retention, very touchy subjects in the school bus industry, because it's been a problem now for years and years and years, and it's only been exacerbated by COVID and a lot of the ramifications of COVID, the supply chain crisis, the recession that we're in. The beauty with driving an electric school bus is that you can reduce a lot of the fatigue that's associated with that. It's a calmer, more pleasant, quieter experience. And the ability to use new technology also gives the ability to update the existing school bus platforms in many ways. Therefore, keeping the kids calm and happy, and therefore keeping the drivers calm and happy. So to go briefly over our vehicles right now, Green Power makes what we call the BEAST. And the BEAST is an acronym. It stands for Battery Electric Automotive Student Transportation. The BEAST is a 40-foot, 90-passenger Type D school bus. It has 194 kilowatt hours of battery capacity with a range of about 140 miles. It charges up to the 20 kilowatt rate on level 2 and also does DC fast charging, which can charge the bus in just about 2.5 hours. The unique feature on the BEAST is that it's a monocoque design, very similar to over-the-road coaches, that allows for what we have called the largest pass-through luggage of any school bus. It's one of our main selling features. The monocoque design of our bus really allows us to use the intricacies of the vehicle and allows us to have extra room, not only for seating and for the battery systems, but for extra storage options too that you don't see anywhere else. And then what I've been told by a lot of our dealers or our dealer in your area is the bigger interest here is the Type A. We have a Type A school bus that we have dubbed the Nano Beast. And it is the only purpose-built zero-emission Type A school bus that's available right now. It's clean sheet design, and what I mean by saying that is it's built from the ground up to the electric, remember, never converted. Approach facilitates optimal battery placement and weight distribution, allowing Green Power to produce a larger battery pack that delivers a longer effective range. The beauty with our Nano Beast is it's not a new product for us, although we just announced it in the spring of this year. Our Beast is built on our EV Star platform, which has accumulated over 200 deliveries throughout the United States. The EV Star platform is used in our passenger line, which is used in public transit, micro transit, employee shuttle. It's also used in our cargo commercial delivery line, where we make box trucks, cargo vans, and truck chassis. And in fact, this is the same chassis that Green Power is producing for another electric vehicle manufacturer by the name of Workhorse. So I only point that out to say that the Nano Beast is built on extremely successful proven technology, 200 deliveries across the North America. And the beauty with the EV Star platform being the base of the Nano Beast is that it has proven its efficiency and reliability through the Altoona bus testing program. And I mention that because the Altoona bus testing program is a third-party validation program that Green Power has no control over. It's run by the Federal Transit Administration, where you essentially provide them a vehicle and they run it through the gambit of tests for about a 4 to 6 month period. Our EV Star, and the Nano Beast chassis passed with the second highest score ever run through on the test, which was a 92.2. So we're very proud of that. Very happy with the design and results that we're getting from our Type A school bus. So our Type A school bus does seat right now up to 24 student passengers, and we have 88 configurations available. It has a 118 kilowatt hour battery pack that gives you an effective range of 150 miles. And then we also like to give flexibility in our charging. Right now it charges with level 2 up to 11 kilowatts, which is if you are fully dead, right about 8.5 hours. And then it does DC fast charging up to 60 kilowatts in about a 2-hour time if you were fully dead. So that's my run. I know I think I went a little over. I don't want to take up any more time, allow some questions and whatnot. I'll put my contact information in the chat. And if anyone has any questions or whatnot, you can send me an email or you can visit greenpowermotor.com.
Thank you. We want to go to Mike, the other Michael from DC City Council Transportation and Environment Committee. Michael, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks again. To remind folks, I'm Mike Porcello. I'm the committee director for the District of Columbia Committee on Transportation and the Environment. We have jurisdiction over, generally over fleet electrification, but not over our school buses. And I'll try to run through sort of my remarks so we can get to some questions. The district is a unique jurisdiction in that it is purely urban. About 75% of our business energy comes from buildings, so our emissions, I should say. Comes from buildings. The other, main thrust comes from the transportation sector. So a lot of our focus in recent years, obviously, has been on buildings, but also on electrification of not only our fleet, our being the district government, but also helping folks transition to EVs to the degree that they can with personal vehicles. That includes some pretty, robust bills, including, in new builds, we've required where there's parking spots over with there's gonna be 3 or more parking spots in a building. They have to be at least 20% EV make ready. We have a street side charging pilot. So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening there. Not so much on the school bus front. Folks who know the district might be surprised to learn that we actually do have about 640 school buses. Generally, DCPS does not bus students. Our state superintendent does for students that have special needs. 0 of those school buses right now are electric, although we have been really working with that agency to move that forward. It's, you know, our school buses are not managed by our Department of Transportation or by our Department of Public Works, which is responsible actually for leasing all fleets for the district. It's run by an entity called Aussie DOT, which is our state superintendent's Department of Transportation. Right now, they're in the process of acquiring 10 electric school buses. As you can guess, that's not many out of 640. And we're really working with them to accelerate that. I won't repeat what Allison spoke about, but you know, we're very excited about the Clean School Bus program. We know in the district, we're listed as one of the priority school districts. Based on our understanding, for a school district of our size, that'll mean up to about 25 school buses and about $375K a bus. It'll also include charging infrastructure, which I actually think is the biggest hurdle. We need to make sure, you know, that the facilities, our bus depots, are ready to accommodate these buses, since we know it is much less expensive and more effective, you know, when we're doing a rebuild or building a new facility to install, you know, the heavy lines and other infrastructure necessary. You know, the retrofits are an extra cost that I think has turned off the district in some instances, and I'm sure is the case for other jurisdictions. But we're very excited for the program. I believe Aussie has already applied, and if they haven't, I know our bosses are, or sorry, my boss being the council member, are pushing on that. Some other things I wanted to flag, just since I know we have some manufacturers on this call who might be interested in sort of where the district is going next. On top of that very small plan that Aussie has in place now, you know, the council passed in July, and the mayor actually just signed at the end of the month a bill that's called the Climate Commitment Act. It does a lot of great things, including codifying our climate goals. But one of the critical things, I think, or one of the relevant things for this call, is that starting in 2026, the bill requires that the government has to completely stop adding new gas-fueled vehicles to its fleet if there's a zero emission alternative available. And when we say zero emission, we're not counting, of course, you know, the standard fuel mix coming from the electric utility. We're talking about the vehicle itself. So that would include our entire bus fleet. It doesn't mean that in 2026, you know, the district has to trash all of our gas-powered vehicles. It's when they come up for, you know, when their natural lifespan comes up and we have to renew them. But as you can imagine, with 600, at that point, I'm imagining 600 plus vehicles just from our school bus fleet ready to be converted. There's going to be a lot of work to be done, and we're hoping, you know, that Aussie is going to be ready to take this on whole hog, and that, you know, having looked at other jurisdictions, they're going to know, you know, have already done the legwork to figure out how best to do this. Two other things I just want to talk about in terms of other jurisdictions. You know, we launched a green bank a couple of years ago. Traditionally, those focus more on infrastructure investments in terms of building retrofits, solar, things of that nature. But, you know, we've been having a lot of conversations with them about infrastructure when it comes to things like school buses and our fleet. And they're very excited about how we can leverage green bank dollars, which for folks that aren't familiar, you know, a green bank is used sort of as a second trust to create a second trust loan where they take on the risk for private, and we're seeing now also government investments in green infrastructure. And we're hoping to see the green bank start leveraging that when it comes to transitioning our fleet as well. Another thing I just want to throw out there, you know, I've been excited about the idea of vehicle to grid. And so as, you know, the council, and whether, you know, as we install EV school buses where the tech is there, if they can be part of sort of a vehicle to grid arrangement where, you know, when they're offline, the buses create capacity for the grid and create resiliency for the district by serving sort of as a microgrid of sorts, but also obviously if it can be worked out with the utility, possibly a revenue source through that battery capacity. We've spoken, you know, on our general fleet, but buses, given their larger size and larger batteries, really represent a better bang for your buck. So that's something that we've been talking to Aussie DOT about. You know, the big first hurdle is getting them to do the transition, but it would be great to see something like that in place. And the last thing I want to say is I just want to echo what everyone else has said about equity. Our Right now we have 2 school bus depots in the district. They're all located in lower income parts of the district. We are converting them into 1 bus depot that is still going to be in the same ward. Really transitioning away from gas-powered buses, as folks have said, is going to be a significant game changer in terms of air quality and health. It's a big deal for the district, where we have actually 1 in 6 residents suffering from asthma. That's 50% higher than the national average. Those disparities are really pronounced in communities of color. And I think it's a focus, if we can transition those depots to be fully EV, the air quality issues should by and large disappear. And obviously the air quality issues related to buses also are for riders. But when we think about equity in the district, a lot is about where we locate these kind of facilities. And I think getting to EVs is, that is one of the reasons we're really pushing to accelerate this work. So yeah, I want to thank everyone for I want to thank you guys again for inviting me to speak today. I don't know if we have time left for questions, but thanks.
Yeah, we'll just go over just a couple quick minutes. I want to thank you all for your great insight. We do have a few questions. If anyone has a question for the group, please put it in the chat as well. Someone asked, what are the 5 C's again? Barry, you want to just mention the titles of those 5 C's one more time? That was Cheryl Pons from Dietech asked, what were the 5 C's? Barry, did we lose you?
Nope, I'm here. The 5 C's again are consulting, charging, constructing, connecting, and conserving.
All right, thank you, thank you. You all did a great job on the environmental benefits, the health benefits, but Allison, can you just pinpoint those environmental benefits just a little more on what the emissions and greenhouse gas impact is on those buses?
I mean, well, I don't have any numbers in front of me, but certainly, there's a CO2 benefit. Particulate matter is another one that we, always tend to be concerned about with kids, and as well as ozone precursors like NOx and VOCs. So is that what you're looking for? Or?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you. That's fine. And I want to thank Michael from Porcello for really talking about the asthma rate, which is very significant. We didn't really get into the fact that asthma is one of the top reasons why kids miss school, and one of the top reasons why people in these areas miss work. So there are educational and financial consequences of bad air quality. All right. One other question. Will the recording of this session be shared amongst everyone? I'd love to share it with my team. Who weren't able to join. Yes, we will. This will be available hopefully by Friday on our website. And we will post it on our social media and email it out to all of the attendees, and you can share it accordingly. So we will do that. My buddy, Dr. Yu was on. Oh, and his son, Zhao was on. Zhao, you're going to be able to edit this for us like you always do?
Hey, John.
Yes.
How are you?
Yeah, so we need Zhao to edit the video so we can send it out to everybody.
Okay, yeah, thank you. You
All
were
right.
successful. Yeah, looks like, learn not much from you. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna, I wanna thank everyone for being here. I wanna mention just, again, if you're not a member of GWRCCC, we'd love for you to become a member. Next week, we will have an event on EV charging in apartments and condos on August 9th. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Then we're going to do a National Biodiesel Day event as well on the 10th at 11 a.m. And save the date for October 19th and 20th. We're going to have a vehicle display and ride and drive downtown DC. We'd love for all the folks on to participate and a lot of others as well. And then on the 20th, we'll have our annual conference and awards luncheon. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Right, Melinda, and all these big companies we got on here. So we'd love to see you all be a big sponsor as well for the upcoming conference. Thank you. I want to thank our team. I want to thank all of our interns and our staff and consultants, and particularly and especially Kim Harden, who worked so hard for us, and our intern Bella, who will pull this together. I know that we have a number of fleet folks on, school district folks, elected officials on it, and child and health and environmental advocates. Thank you all. Have a great day. Be safe. Bye-bye.